1932, Ford Deuce Coupe, driven by John Milner. The 1932 Ford Deuce Coupe is the gravitational center of American graffiti. Everything else in the film orbits this car. Painted bright yellow, chopped, lowered, and stripped of anything unnecessary, it represents the purest expression of early hot rod culture. This is not a factory vehicle anymore. It is a personal statement shaped by obsession, grease, and late nights in small garages. John Milner's Deuce Coupe reflects his identity perfectly. Milner lives for speed, reputation, and the ritual of cruising. The car's lightweight body and modified engine give it brutal acceleration, not because of advanced technology, but because of mechanical simplicity. Less weight, more power, and no compromises. This philosophy defines early street racing culture. You build fast by removing comfort and adding aggression. The exposed engine components and exaggerated stance turn the car into a rolling challenge. Every stoplight becomes an invitation. Every cruise down the strip is a test of dominance. The Deuce Coupe does not need dialogue to announce itself. The sound of the engine does that work. In the film's visual language, the car becomes mythic. It is spoken about, feared, and respected long before it races. This car also represents the end of an era. By 1962, factory muscle cars were beginning to emerge, threatening the reign of homemade hot rods. Milner's Ford stands as a final champion of the old way, where speed came from ingenuity rather than dealership brochures. When it races Bob Falfa's newer Chevy, the clash is philosophical as much as mechanical. Tradition versus modernity. Craft versus raw displacement. 1958 Chevrolet Impala, driven by Terry the Toad Fields. The white 1958 Chevrolet Impala enters the story as a borrowed dream. Terry Fields does not own this car. That fact defines everything that happens inside it. The Impala represents aspiration without responsibility, confidence borrowed rather than earned. The 1958 model year marked Chevrolet's full embrace of excess. Massive tail fins, chrome-heavy trim, and a wide, imposing body turned the Impala into a rolling symbol of late 1950s American optimism. This is a car built to impress, not intimidate. It glides rather than attacks. For Terry, the Impala becomes a costume. Behind the wheel, he plays a version of himself that does not quite exist. The car grants him temporary authority and visibility. People notice him because they notice the car. This borrowed status fuels his confidence and also his recklessness. Without ownership, consequences feel distant. The Impala's role is essential because it shows the other side of car culture. Not everyone builds. Some borrow. Not everyone races. Some cruise. The Impala represents the dream of belonging without commitment, and the cost of discovering that dreams still demand accountability. 1955 Chevrolet 150/210, driven by Bob Falfa. Bob Falfa's black 1955 Chevrolet is the antagonist on wheels. It arrives quietly but carries threat in every line. Unlike Milner's Ford, this Chevy reflects factory muscle potential, upgraded and weaponized for dominance. The 1955 Chevrolet introduced a new generation of performance possibilities. Lightweight body, V8 power, and massive aftermarket support made it a street racing favorite. Falfa's version strips away innocence. Black paint absorbs light rather than reflecting it. The car feels predatory. Falfa himself mirrors this energy. He is confident, confrontational, and hungry to dethrone local legends. His Chevy represents the future pressing aggressively against the past. This is not a handcrafted relic. It is an evolution. The climactic drag race between Falfa and Milner becomes the film's defining mechanical conflict. Old school hot rod versus newer muscle, experience versus raw power. The Chevy's strength lies in brute force. The Ford relies on balance and driver intuition. This Chevy also carries cinematic history, having appeared in two-lane blacktop. That legacy adds weight to its presence. It is a car already mythologized, now repurposed as a challenger. Falfa's Chevrolet is not evil, but it is disruptive. It signals change whether welcomed or not. 1956. Ford Thunderbird. Driven by the blonde. The white 1956 Ford Thunderbird operates on a different wavelength. It is mystery, elegance, and temptation wrapped in fiberglass and chrome. Driven by the enigmatic blonde, the car feels almost unreal, like a moving mirage. The Thunderbird was Ford's response to the Corvette, designed not as a pure sports car, but as a personal luxury vehicle. It balances performance with comfort, speed with style. This duality defines its role in the film. The blonde remains elusive, always just ahead or just out of reach. Her Thunderbird matches that energy. It is fast enough to disappear, refined enough to intimidate without aggression. The car does not challenge directly, it entices. In visual terms, the Thunderbird softens the film's masculine edge. It introduces glamour into a world of grease-stained garages and testosterone-fueled rivalries. The car glides rather than roars, floating through the night. By the time it vanishes, the impression lingers. The car becomes a symbol of possibility rather than conquest. It represents the roads not taken, the people briefly encountered, and the memories that remain sharper because they were never fully understood. 1951. Mercury Custom. Driven by Joe and the Pharaohs. The chopped and lowered 1951 Mercury Custom announces danger before it speaks. This is classic custom culture distilled into menace. Black paint, roof lines sliced low, and a slow, deliberate presence give the car an almost funereal authority. Driven by Joe, leader of the Pharaohs gang, the Mercury represents rebellion without nostalgia. Unlike Milner's competitive pride or Terry's borrowed fantasy, the Pharaohs use cars as territorial markers. This Mercury is about control. Custom Mercuries were icons of post-war car culture, favored for their smooth lines and customization potential. Lowering the roof transforms the car into something sinister. Visibility reduces, presence increases. The Mercury moves slowly, deliberately. Speed is not its weapon. Intimidation is. The car's role in the film reinforces the idea that car culture branches into different tribes. Racers, cruisers, dreamers, and enforcers all share the same streets but follow different codes. The Pharaoh's Mercury also reflects a darker undercurrent of youth culture. Not all rebellion is playful. Some carries real danger. The car's design amplifies that tension, turning aesthetics into psychological warfare. 1958 Edsel Corsair. Driven by Steve Belander. Steve Belander's 1958 Edsel Corsair is the quiet tragedy of the film's automotive lineup. The Edsel was infamous for commercial failure, and that reputation bleeds directly into its narrative role. The Corsair is large, expensive, and awkwardly styled. Its vertical grille and unconventional proportions made it stand out for the wrong reasons. In the film, it becomes an extension of Steve's internal conflict. Steve is transitioning out of teenage freedom and into adult responsibility. The Edsel reflects that limbo. It is not cool, not fast, and not admired. It is practical and inherited, a family car rather than a personal statement. Driving the Edsel isolates Steve from the cruising culture he is leaving behind. While others race and flirt, he navigates expectations and future plans. The car visually reinforces that separation. The Edsel's presence adds realism. Not every teenager drives a legend. Some inherit compromises. The Corsair grounds the film emotionally, reminding viewers that growing up often feels like being handed keys you did not ask for. 1967. Citroën 2CV. The Citroën 2CV is an intentional disruption. Set in 1962, its appearance makes no logical sense. That is exactly why it works. The 2CV was designed for rural Europe, prioritizing simplicity and efficiency over style or speed. In a film obsessed with American automotive identity, it feels alien. Its inclusion injects humor and absurdity. The car moves awkwardly through scenes dominated by chrome and horsepower. It reminds viewers that car culture is not universal. It is regional, cultural, and sometimes ridiculous. The anachronism also hints at the coming cultural shifts. The world is changing faster than these characters realize. Foreign ideas, designs, and values are approaching, whether welcomed or not. The two CV functions as a visual joke and a philosophical warning. The bubble of American cruising culture is temporary. Other perspectives are already rolling in. From John Milner's defiant Deuce Coupe to Bob Falfa's aggressive Chevrolet. From the borrowed fantasy of the Impala to the mystery of the Thunderbird. From the menace of the Mercury to the quiet disappointment of the Edsel. And finally, the absurd intrusion of the Citroën. Every car in American Graffiti represents a different path through youth, identity, and change. These vehicles are not background props. They are emotional signposts, marking where each character stands and where they are headed. So that's our full breakdown. Now I want to hear from you. Which car best captured the spirit of American Graffiti for you? And which one surprised you the most when you looked deeper into what it represented? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown of movie car culture and automotive storytelling, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. We have plenty more car-focused film and TV breakdowns coming soon. See you in the next one.